to day 2 of Inktoberfest. I hope you enjoyed our introduction yesterday. I know so many of you were excited about this event and we cannot wait to share this with you. So we're starting off with a focus on distress products. Today I'm going to talk a lot about the general distress pads, and I'm also going to give you a brief overview of some of the other things that make up the distress range and kind of how it all fits together before we do that deep dive. We're actually making 2 different tags today. One is about stamping techniques and one is going to be about blending and stencils. So we have lots and lots to show you, so let's dive into everything we have here. So Distress is the ink brand of Tim Holtz, our favourite stamping guru, and he has many different things. He has stamps and dies and ephemera and all sorts of things, and we'll get to some of those on the table. I've got a little bit of a selection of most things out here. But Distress Inks is really how it started. His inks are made by Ranger in New Jersey. They're all made by hand. I was recently in the facility and it's absolutely amazing to see that production process and how it's all done by hand. They're available in full-size pads or in cubes. And you can see here, I have pretty much all of the colours set out. They come in 60 colours total. I am lucky enough to own them all and I love this beautiful rainbow. Ranger also do some great downloads you can go on their website and get, and I'll link those in the description for you, as to swatch charts and getting them into that rainbow order as well. We also have lots of nice browns and greys and blacks. Tim's favourite colour is brown, so you've got lots and lots of selection in there to choose from. There's also an embossing pad. In the past we've had distress embossing powders and distress stickles and some other products along the way too. There's also some variations. So you'll notice that this signature distress ink comes in a black piece here. The cubes are also in black and they have exactly the same formulation. Now there's also the Distress Oxides, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. And they are a pigment and dye fusion, so they're not a hybrid ink. They're something a little bit different, and we'll be showing you how special they are tomorrow. You also have the custom blend inks. These come in a black case, they're completely blank, and you can use re-inkers of an oxide, dye combination, distress ink combination to create your own custom colours. Now the Distress Oxides are currently available in 48 of the 60 colours. We're told by Tim the last 12 will be out before the end of the year, so we're super excited. And I pulled out just a regular dye ink pad here as well, and we're going to stamp them both and see the difference. There is a Distress spray bottle. I've grabbed my Nuvo one here, but there is that in the range as well, and I'll try to find that at some point during this week so we can have a look at that too. But here this covers more of that distress ink range. So there are distress markers that again come in all 60 colours. They have a fine tip and a brush tip. We'll have a day for those too to teach you some fun techniques. We also have sprays. This is the Distress Resist spray, and later in the week we'll be having a day with this and the Microglaze, 2 really fun and unique products that are part of that distress range. There are distress spray stains. There are distress mica sprays. There are stains. We have oxide re-inkers, which come in this soap bottle. And these are those distress ink re-inkers as well. There's also a collection of mediums that come for collaging and things like that as well. And I've been diving more into those mixed media worlds. And then Tim, to go with that, has these wonderful collage papers, ephemera, boxes, and pieces to go on the front of those boxes. This is part of his ideology range, but it does work really nicely in with this distress. He has a range of stamps that come from Stampers Anonymous, and we're going to be playing with some of those on our tags today. There's a range of signature papers that go with that. So we have the wood grain cardstock, the speciality cardstock, the heavyweight mixed media, and the distress watercolor cardstock, as well as his tags as well, which Tim is famous for using. We'll be looking at blending foams and at the distress brushes. I have a selection of his stencils here, and I'm going to be showing you one set of new stencils this week, which are really fun to create repeating patterns. We'll be talking about brushes and different stencil brushes, and then a little bit about the tools as well. So lots and lots of things to dive into. And I'm really excited to be showing you distress because it's one of the first things I discovered when I was a stamper. You can buy it at Michael's, you can buy it in England fairly easily as well. So distress was really kind of my first dive into the stamping world, and I want to show you some of my top tips and some of the differences and what makes distress really unique. So let's do some stamping. So as I mentioned, we're making 2 tags today, but I really want to start with the basics. So the basics being, let's have a go with an ink pad. I think I'm going to go with let's go with the right persimmon. So these are a typical dye ink. So they're a little bit translucent and they're going to absorb into your cardstock. They're not going to work on your dark cardstocks, but they do have beautiful colours. And distress inks react differently with water than say your regular dye ink. And I want to do an example tag of that. So grab whatever stamp. I'm going to go with these winter watercolours. This is one of Tim's new stamp sets. And as always, of course, those links are in the description for you. But these are designed to be watercolours, so you can do some different things with them. And I'm going to grab 2 parts of the poinsettia here. And one of Tim's tips, if you do get any of these watercolour sets, is to leave this piece in here. But you have little tiny pieces in here, which you can then just pop back in and you're not going to lose them if you keep this large sheet. That's why they give it to you. I'm going to be using a glass block, acrylic block even. And what I want to do first of all is I want to stamp it out in ripe persimmon. So same technique as always, just that tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to stamp it out. So you can see there I've got a lovely image. I am going to just grab a little bit of kitchen towel and some water because I don't have my stamp cleaner here. And Tim never really cleans his stamps. He uses a flower cloth, I think it is, from Walmart, if ever you've seen one of his demonstrations. And we do have some on the Hedgehog channel. I'll link some of those up in that corner for you. So this is just a Lawn Fawn Dye Ink. So this is just one of those kind of regular off-the-shelf dye inks. Make sure our stamp is well inked. And then we're going to stamp out. So in the actual stamping in themselves, there's a little bit of difference. You get, I think, a little bit more textureness, bobbliness. I'm not sure I'm sure there's a technical term that isn't coming to me. I just feel you get that kind of more distressed image when you stamp out. With a distress ink, it's much crisper, I guess, when you stamp with some other dye inks. But it depends what look you're going for. And I have to say that 90% of the time I probably stamp with distress inks if I want colour. Otherwise I would use something like a hybrid ink. But this is the things you can do to play with it. And this is one of the reasons I wanted us to try lots of different things with this. So I'm going to take another tag. I'm going to cover up half of this image. And now I'm going to take my mist bottle. Now, as I mentioned, there is a distress mister. I do have one. Of course, I couldn't find it for this video because I always use this one. So that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm not going to take my piece off yet because I want to show you the difference. So this one is bleeding and spidering. This one is just kind of bleeding. It's a different reaction. And I'll move it closer to the camera. The other thing I can do with a distress ink is I can lift out ink. So I can lighten that. I'm going to struggle to do quite so much with this ink here. And I'm going to heat dry this so you can see the difference. But if you're trying to go for that vintagey, oldie-woldy kind of fun technique, then distress inks are really there for that. And I know many of us use distress inks. We know and love them very well. And that's why I just put that tag down on top, just to kind of protect half, so that you could see the difference. And what I would do is write on my tag, distress and dye, and then I would also draw a line of spritz and unspritz. So you can see the difference between the two. And this is great because you'll be really thankful when Inktoberfest is over that you can just hop back in and be like, oh, that was that lesson. And if you number your lesson days, they'll be easy to find on YouTube or on the blog. So that was one of the techniques I wanted to show you. And that's in regards to stamping. Now the other thing you can do, and we can do this on the back of this tag, is we can take that same poinsettia stamp. Now I know over here you call them poinsettias as well. Tons of different things we say differently. We might speak the same language, but I can assure you there are lots and lots of differences, and we find at least a new one every single day. So something else you can do with distress inks that you're not going to get the same effect with dye inks is you can take your stamp. Now you can either mist your paper or mist your stamp, or both. And I'm going to kind of do this in the middle of those two. And so you can see if my paper is misted, look at those amazing spiders that I got instantly stamping down. Isn't that a cool effect? And then here, where I've misted my stamp, it looks more watercolor. So by adding water in different places, whether you add it to your paper, whether you add it to your stamp, you can create these really fun techniques, and you can add water afterwards to create even more fun techniques and different things that you can do. So you can just heat dry this. This is the Ranger Heat It tool. And this I got after seeing a demonstration with Tim. And the reason I bought this is because when you're working with distress and you had lots of water and you've got all those things going on, if you take your regular embossing heat tool, the flow of air is really high. This reaches the same temperature as your heat embossing gun, but you can hear it's a lot quieter and the airflow is lower, and so it's not going to move all of your water around. And I'm just working on regular Avery tags. Tim tells us all the time, I work on tags, it's just a piece of paper. If I don't want it to be a tag, I cut it off and I mount it on a card. But you can write on here, so you can put distress, 2 S's, dye, and then you can kind of make yourself, and I don't have a ruler, and so you have dry and spritz, and then on the back here you can do spritzed paper and spritzed the stamp. So you can keep those and write whatever notes you want to on there. If you like a little bit here and you like this spiral, this like spidering out, give that a circle and let yourself know that that's why you kept that piece on there. But these tags for your reference, and I'm going to put more mine on a book ring, and I know by the end of the month I'm going to have way more than my 31. Even though we didn't do one yesterday, we're going to have lots of these tags, and you're going to have lots of information on these tags. Now the next thing I want to show you is ink blending. And again, distress inks are amazing at that. I have some tin stencils here, and I'm going to kind of do a half and half. Let's first of all start with just blending straight onto paper. Now, one thing I'm going to say is blending with distress inks really varies depending on the paper you use. If you use the Stamping Distress cardstock, you're going to get a really smooth and seamless blend. Now, this is something I blended with 3 colors of distress, and I got a beautiful blend, and then I stamped with white embossing powder on the top. And this is the new scrapbook.com release, but you can see I got beautiful blends, and that is because I used that distress stamping cardstock, because it has a slight gloss to it. And we'll get to that in the final day of distress. We're going to go through some of those extra little things that you can really do to make your cards pop. You can also blend through a stencil, as I did here, and this is different shades of blue that I blended. And then over the top, I put some Moonstone Glimmer Paste, which still allows that pop of distress colour, but you can see how beautifully you can get those seamless blends again. So you can blend backgrounds, and there are a few different ways to do it. We can use our blending tools. Now, I have never been the biggest fan of these until I discovered distress stamping cardstock. Then I had the most amazing blends, but I couldn't get it right without that cardstock. I'm going to give it a good go on here. And I like to work on the Easy Clean mat. Now, I do have a video that we did with Tim at Stamp Away, again, top right hand corner. And if you watch that video, you'll be able to see, it gives you the difference of blending on this Easy Clean mat, which usually goes in this palette area, or blending directly on the glass mat. But either way, you want to start off the page and blend on. So that's one option you have. And you can see, you just get that background, you can blend different colours together. There are also distress brushes, and these are fairly new. So they come, and then this piece goes up, and that allows you to put your lid on, and there they go. And you can put these, and these fit perfectly in some of the distress storage tins as well. I'm going to keep with the right persimmon, just so you can see the difference, so it's not the colour change that you're seeing. So load up your brush. Again, we're going to go from the side, and we're going to start adding that colour on. What you'll notice, first of all, is the different intensity of colours. Now, I can absolutely build this intensity up, and I can make it darker, but you'll get a more intense finish with those blending foams, in my opinion. Now, there are also the Nouveau brushes, or Clarity brushes, scrapbook.com do a version. I love these. These are my favourite blending tool. If you were to ask me, this is what I would pick if I was crafting somewhere and I had the choice. I like these because they're a nice soft point on them, and they come in different sizes. I have lots of control. And again, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And what you'll notice is, again, it's going to depend what cardstock you use. So I'm just working on these Avery tags. So this is not the best blending cardstock, but I'm using this because it's most appropriate for what I want this project to be. And that's sometimes the case. Now you can absolutely use distress inks on watercolor papers, on Bristol Smooth, on canvases. You can pretty much use them on anything. They will not dry on non-porous surfaces because they're a dye, they're a water-based ink. But you can see that I can also build up a really lovely background using that. Now this is the special thing about distress, and you may want to make the back and the front of this tag the same, and then for the other technique you might want to do a third tag. But what you can do is then if I spritz this, and you could just cover up different areas. So that's now going to react with water. I can give that a help along with my heat tool if I want to. And I'm going to get a lovely mottled effect in there. And I can see the difference, and I'll lift it up towards the camera in a second. Again, I can do the same down here. I can spritz, and the bigger the droplets you put down, the more of a reaction you're going to get. I can also lift up ink, so I can take ink away if I have too much. I can also do like loads and loads and loads of ink and water and then pull that ink up. And again, I can grab my heat tool and I can dry. And let me lift this up towards you so that you can see. So you see here, this is where I added the water, this is where I didn't. You can see that line across here. This is where I added the water and it's kind of reacted with that water, and this is that plain background. So you can do those areas, cover them up, and then just like little boxes with your pen, or you can do one side with water and one side without. But what I wanted to show you was our distress ink smushing, I believe is the popular term. So you'll have seen as I'm starting to clear off here that ink beads up, and that can create the most beautiful backgrounds. So let's write on here. So this is a wet and dry Nouveau brush. This is a wet and dry-ish, and that was with the foam. This is the wet and dry with a distress brush. So again, you can just create these little segments for yourself so that you have all the information and you can refer back to it. We're now going to use that reverse side, so I'm just going to dry up this little bit of water that I've picked up. And now we're going to work on the back. So let's grab a couple of different colours. I picked out some here. I've gone for a wilted violet. I'm going to pop this down. And you can see how it's beading up already. This is the Tonic Easy Clean Matte that comes with your glass mat, or you can buy them separately. And then with some Twisted Citron, and I'm going to go with some picked raspberry. So these are not necessarily colours you might want to put together, but bear with me, because we're going to have some fun. And I'm going to do it on another tag first of all, and then we might go back with this one, depending what we get. So the more water you spritz, obviously that waters down that colour, but you can see how it beads up. And we're going to take advantage of that. We're just going to put our tag through. Isn't that just the prettiest colour? That's really not what I expected to get at all. I can see that I'm going to be making a third tag today. Now you are going to get muddy areas on some if you use colours that are not complementary. So if you use those opposites, you will make mud. I'm going to show you an ink tomorrow that won't do that, but that doesn't mean you can't make some beautiful backgrounds. Look here how I've got this green at the bottom, and then it goes into this pink and purple, and it's made like this reddy brown. I actually kind of like that muddy brown colour that it's made as well. So, and you don't have to worry about getting it all over. You again can build up layers, but if I go in for more, this is a dye-based ink. It's always going to react with water, so you are going to reactivate that ink if you go back in again. Maybe we will just pick up a couple of areas. So let's go down the bottom here, and I'm going to pick up some more of this green, and you can put more colour down. I mean, I have a big mat to use here. Tim has a saying, and I keep thinking I should get my shirt to say it, that it's you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And I think that's so appropriate when you're working with this. But I love that little flash of green that I've got up there. So, whilst that is drying, I'm going to clean off my mat. Like so. I'm going to grab a clean-ish piece of kitchen towel. And I'm going to show you a couple more things that we can do with this. This is nowhere near exhaustive. There are so many different things I could teach you with distress inks. I probably could spend an entire month just on distress inks. But I'm just trying to here give you an overview of how versatile these are, tips and tricks, those kinds of things, and just some different techniques that you can apply in your card making. And of course you're going to create this fabulous tag book of techniques as well. So let's go ahead and create something on top of this. Let's grab one of Tim's stencils. I'm going to go with this Halloween stencil, and I'm going to put it down here. And I've got my kitchen towel ready. I have my mist bottle. I'm going to spritz through my stencil, not too much, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull off that ink. Now the darker the colours you do, the more you'll see this effect. And you can also do it a couple of times. So I can spritz once and then I can go back, spritz again and lift more off. But what you're going to get is I've lifted off the ink in that area of the stencil. So you see you get that beautiful texture in the background. I can then dry this off. And off I go again. So I'll just make sure that's a little bit dry before I do this top piece. Now I'm going to choose a different colour again. And because we're kind of doing this funky theme, I'm going to go in with some black soot. I don't use black soot often enough, I think. So I'm going to grab a fresh blending foam, and you can add Velcro dots on the bottom of your distress pads and then just add your foams on the bottom there. That's kind of what I keep intending to do and kind of never get around to. But what I can do is I can add more colour over the top. So I can take some black onto my foam here. I can do the same with a brush. I'm going to do half with a foam. And now I'm going to pick up, I'll just use this brush instead here. So one thing typically is not to mix Distress Oxides and just regular Distress on the same foam or brush, unless you're going to give it a wash in between, because you're not going to get that same effect that you wanted. But you absolutely can do these. And this again is going to give you a more subtle effect. So if you want to use the translucency of that dye ink, you can use a brush. And it's going to give you a more subtle effect, but also just as pretty. So you can also do it that it fades. So here you've got really strong and then it kind of fades upwards. Here you've got it that we've lifted that ink up, and then you've got room to write on the back of your tag exactly what you've done and what you love about it. Any tips you've picked up, maybe when you're doing it you've used a particular color combination that you really love. Loads and loads of things you can do on there. So I really hope that we've given you kind of just a brief overview. As I say, we've barely touched the surface on distress inks, but there's so much here to learn. Thanks so much for joining us here for day 2 of Inktoberfest. I really hope you're enjoying this festival. Don't forget to check out that linked blog post in the description below, or if you're there already and watching this video, you should have all of your links there. We've got Tonic coupon codes, we've got some giveaways going on throughout the month. Check us out at the Hedgehog Hollow on Instagram. Of course, Tonic Studios, Tim Holtz and Ranger Ink. We hope you're following all of us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you get future Inktoberfest videos and beyond. And don't forget also to hit that thumbs up button if you've learned some tips and tricks and techniques. I can't wait to see your tag. Be sure to tag us, the Hedgehog Hollow, if it's on Instagram or Facebook, with your Inktoberfest tags. I can't wait to see them. Hashtag Inktoberfest 2018. We'll be looking out for them very soon. Happy stamping, everyone. Bye.